Meta has said that they're committed to lowering that. They're like starting high and then lowering the floor over time. But they've been recently releasing a lot of AI tools. It's not that they aren't helpful, but they are tools. They're not replacements. They could integrate a solution similar with what they had in the in-headset tools. Another in-headset tool would be great. But even barring that, some sort of visual code scripting language like Scratch, that sort of integration, or their own, bring code blocks to 2D, have the primitive shapes, have the asset library that people can like kit bash things together. Or they can say everything's AI. And the problem with AI is that while it lowers the floor, it also lowers the ceiling. And there's a lot of foundational learning that you get from this sort of Scratch language, this physical language, that you're not going to get from AI. One of the things that, I was playing around with vibe coding. It's pretty easy to give AI, 1 to 3 steps of instructions for basic platforming. Like, if you want a moving platform, it'll just do it. If you want to build like a spike pit, it'll just do it. It's very straightforward. But then if you want something like a player manager that is tracking players as they enter the world, it's a little more abstract and it's a little more complicated. And you can't just say, hey, give me a player manager.
Right.
So you have to start with saying like, hey, I've got an object. I need it to register itself with a parent object on entry. Okay, and put that into an array. And then it's like, okay, now when a player, with the parent object, when a player enters the world, it needs to take that player and it needs to send it to the object in the array that matches the player index and assign it to that player, and have it save that player as its like active player variable. And it needs to read, so on and so forth. There's a lot of layers to it. If you don't fundamentally understand how to do that, you're just not going to be able to do it. You're going to say like, I need a player manager, and AI will say, oh, how do you want me to do that? And you'll be like, oh, shoot. Well, I don't know.
I think this is one of the things we were talking about when we were at Ubi's place, right? Is that like, while these AI tools are lowering the barriers in some ways, generative AI, like writing a blog post as a very basic example, right? It can do a lot of the writing for you and just write stuff.
Yeah.
You as like the ideator of the content, right? You need to like have a vision in your mind of the story you want to tell, how you want to lay it out, the details you want to include and stuff. Otherwise, the tool's just going to go for the like most generic approach. It's not going to hit any of the marks you need to. And it's like, okay, well, what was the point of me even going down this route in the first place?
If you say, AI, write me a persuasive essay, and you don't know how to write a persuasive essay, how do you know that it's doing it right? And look, AI can do a good job, but it's not going to do a great job. It does a good job at scale or a mediocre job at scale and quickly. For anything complex, you really need to understand what it's doing and what it's trying to do. Your experience can't be a black box, or when something inevitably breaks because the platform is constantly updating, you really have to know what's happening, what's going on.
Yeah.